On August 17, 2025, Indiana versus Connecticut, Sophie Cunningham went down after contact in the lane and later confirmed an MCL tear, season ending. Then came the photo. The split second where Hartley's face, frozen by the camera, looked like a smirk.
Clearly smiling after injuring Sophie Cunningham.
Social feeds called it laughing, and the outrage lit up. Here's the part that matters. Sophie addressed it on her podcast calmly and directly. She said she doesn't believe there was any ill intent from Bria Hartley, called it a basketball play, and added she has nothing but love for Hartley, who she described as a good friend. She also cooled things down in her own circle, asking her mom to delete a heated post and urging fans to stop blaming Hartley.
Sophie Cunningham was targeted. Let's be very, very clear here.
That's leadership. You start by calming your own side. And about that smile, Sophie tackled it head-on. She said it wasn't a happy grin at her pain. It looked more like an ooh face, a quick, awkward grimace in a chaotic moment. In motion, that tracks. We've all made that face when something bad happens right in front of us. A still image can't capture that. Context matters. Hartley drove, lost balance, bodies tangled, and she stumbled across Sophie's planted leg. Ugly outcome? Yes. Intent? Sophie says no. That's the standard to keep. Impact can be severe without malice being present. From there, Sophie kept the focus where it belongs, on rehab, on her team, and on smarter conversations about player safety. She called the MCL news the best possible case among bad options and made it clear she'll handle surgery and recovery. Meanwhile, Indiana moved quickly to fill the roster gap. Proof this is about basketball solutions, not internet trials. So what do we do with the viral frame? Treat it like what it is, incomplete evidence. If you're going to judge intent, especially the kind that accuses a pro of laughing at pain, watch the tape at speed and listen to the primary voice, the injured player. On this one, Sophie's verdict is clear. No ill intent, no grudge, move on. You can think a player has an edgy reputation and still accept that this specific collision wasn't a hit job. Two things can be true, and Sophie's the one telling you which truth applies here. That should carry weight. Now let's widen the lens and talk about the parts of this story that don't fit neatly into a single screenshot. First, the pace of a professional game is unforgiving. Off-ball collisions happen in tight spaces with bodies in motion, and the camera's perfect angle rarely tells the full story. What a still frame suggests. Full-speed video often corrects. In real time, momentum does what momentum does. It carries players into each other, past each other, and sometimes right through a planted leg. That doesn't absolve everything, but it does explain a lot. An explanation is not the same as excuse. Second, let's talk about micro-expressions. When a human brain gets hit with shock, someone falls, a limb twists, a sound tells you something went wrong, faces glitch. You get the half-open mouth, the wince that reads like a crooked smile, the flash of disbelief. Cameras freeze those glitches. The internet captions them. And suddenly we're not reading a face. We're reading our own assumptions projected onto it. That's why Sophie's interpretation matters. She was there. She knows Bria. She knows what that face meant in the moment, and she made it plain. It looked like a grimace, not a gloat. There's also a cultural piece here, the difference between playing with edge and playing with intent to injure. Edge is part of the job. It's what raises the ceiling in playoff series, what forces a contested rebound, what gives us chase-down blocks and charges taken at the dotted circle. Intent to injure is a different category entirely. It's rare, it's serious, and when it's there, players usually say so, clearly and quickly. That didn't happen here. Instead, the person with the most right to be furious chose nuance over fire. That should slow all of us down. If you love the old school way sports are supposed to work, respect the opponent, respect the whistle, respect the game, then Sophie's approach is the blueprint. She didn't ignore what happened. She didn't sugarcoat how much it hurt or what it cost her season. She simply separated outcome from intention. That's not soft, that's strong. It takes more strength to tell your own family to stand down than it does to feed the outrage machine. And let's be candid, part of the fury wasn't just about the photo, it was also about process. Fans expected a longer look, an official review, some sign the moment was being evaluated at the table. Whether a review changes the ruling or not, it changes how everyone in the building feels about the fairness of the night. That's not theatrics, that's trust. When players feel the process is consistent, they can live with tough outcomes. When they don't, every hard play feels like a conspiracy, and every facial expression becomes Exhibit A. This is where a practical conversation beats a pile-on. If we want fewer nights like this, tighten the standard. Make lower body injuries with visible distress an automatic look at the monitor. You're not promising a flagrant, you're promising attention. You're telling the arena, the bench, and the TV audience, we saw it, we're checking it, we'll own the call. That posture drains a lot of poison from the discourse before it even starts. Meanwhile, the human story continues. Sophie goes from game mode to recovery mode. The routine is brutally simple. Imaging, opinions, a surgical plan, and then the long staircase of rehab. Range of motion, strength, control, trust. Anyone who's been through an MCL recovery knows it's not just the knee, it's the mind. It's learning to believe in the joint again when the film room shows the exact moment it failed you. That's why words matter so much in the first week. If Sophie tells herself and all of us that this was a bad play with bad luck, not malice, it clears mental space for healing. She's not carrying a grudge on top of the rehab bag. On the other sideline, Bria sits with a different kind of weight. Anyone who's been in the middle of a storm knows the feeling. You replay the collision in your head, frame by frame, searching for the crossroads where you could have planted differently, cut wider, braced sooner. If you've ever had a moment where your worst look was misunderstood, you also know the impulse to shout your innocence into the void. That's when a rival's grace lands the hardest. Sophie telling the world no malice is a hand on the shoulder, quiet, firm, and corrective. The two locker rooms respond in their own ways. Indiana, down a starter, does what teams have always done, adjust rotations, simplify reads, and double down on identity. Someone gets a bump in minutes. Someone else inherits late clock decisions. Coaches script with a sharper pencil. A team's culture either collapses or hardens in these stretches, and you can usually hear which one it is in the coach's voice after practice. In this case, the message has been steady. Keep the temperature low, let the league handle policy, and respect the fact that the player who got hurt isn't calling for a head. For fans, this moment is a stress test of how we consume the sport. Do we want the instant high of a villain arc, or do we want a league that treats human beings like human beings? Those aren't the same. It's easy to be principled when your favorite player is the one accused. It's harder when your rival is the one being defended. That's where old school means something. Old school is praising your rival's integrity when they've earned it. Old school is letting the tape speak louder than the caption. Old school is the handshake line after everything gets chippy. Let's talk about body language for a moment, because the infamous smile discourse lives there. The best analysts in any sport will tell you body language is a clue, not a verdict. It needs corroboration. What happened before? What happened after? Did the player check on the opponent? What did teammates say in the huddle? Was there a pattern of taunting? These are the contextual cues that turn a clue into a conclusion. Absent those, you have a Rorschach test, a blot of pixels we all raid with our biases. Sophie's testimony supplies the missing context, and it points away from gloating. There's also a lesson for media and creators, us included. Outrage is sticky, but it's also cheap. A freeze frame with laughing slapped on top will travel farther than a measured breakdown. But the long game belongs to trust. Audiences remember who rushed to the easy story and who waited for the primary voices. If you're building a channel, a show, a community around this league, the best flex in the world is to be right after the adrenaline fades. That's how you get people to come back. That's also how you honor the sport you say you love. Zooming back in, the road ahead for Sophie is structured but demanding. Expect the early phase to focus on pain management and swelling control, then careful work to restore range. Strength returns in layers, quads, hamstrings, glutes, because the knee doesn't live alone. Then it's neuromuscular control, landing mechanics, cutting angles, reactive drills. The last stage is trust at speed. That's where film becomes an ally, not a trigger. That's where teammates matter, because the first practice back is as mental as it is physical. The best rehab rooms have laughter and brutal honesty in equal parts. You celebrate tiny wins and tell the truth about the days that drag. And the road ahead for the league? Cleaner standards and better communication. It doesn't have to be complicated. Publish a short list of baked-in reviews, visible lower body distress, head contact, off-ball collisions that drop a player immediately. Make the language plain, the thresholds transparent, and the application consistent. These tweaks won't stop injuries, but they will stop the feeling that big moments are handled by vibes. Players notice, coaches notice, fans absolutely notice. On Bria's side, rebuilding public trust is slower than issuing a statement. It happens possession by possession, month by month. You play on time. You pick up a teammate. You help an opponent up. You avoid the extracurriculars that feed the narrative. You keep your edge where the rules say it belongs. And over time, the league sees the new tape. Reputation is a shadow that arrives before you do, but you can change its shape brick by brick. If you've made it this far, you're here for more than an easy dunk on either side. You're here because you value the whole picture. So let's put the whole picture on one screen. A starter went down with a serious knee injury. A split-second frame of the opponent's face looked bad. The internet supplied a motive. The injured player rejected that motive, defended the opponent's character, and asked even her own family to stand down. The team moved forward with roster adjustments. The path back will be long. The simplest fix is tightening review triggers. The better habit is listening to primary sources before you decide intent. That's the story without the froth. And yes, there's room for debate inside that story. Some of you will say prior incidents matter, and they do, especially when we talk about deterrence and fines. Some of you will say a player's word should be the last word, and that's compelling when the player is as direct as Sophie has been. Some will argue that even accidental outcomes deserve stiffer in-game penalties to protect future opponents. Reasonable minds can differ on how to calibrate that without criminalizing hard play. That's a conversation worth having. What isn't worth it is turning a misunderstood expression into a lifelong label. Let's circle back to the moment that kicked this off. Are you serious? In this context, it's the perfect double-edged reaction. Are we serious about player safety? Then we should be serious about process, not just punishment. Are we serious about fairness? Then we should be serious about the difference between a wince and a laugh. Are we serious about the league we're building? Then we should be serious about listening to the people actually on the floor when the collision happens. Before we close, a word to younger players and fans who are learning how to watch the game. The smartest thing you can do is slow down. Don't let a single image hijack your judgment. Ask, what does the injured player say? What does the full speed angle show? Was there a review? What does the rulebook emphasize here? Excessive contact, wind up, follow through, point of contact. Even if you don't have all the answers, the questions will save you from the worst takes. It's how you grow from spectator to student of the game. And a word to the old heads who've seen this cycle before. Speak up. Model the patience you earned by watching 1,000 games. Remind people what it looks like when rivals are fierce between the lines and respectful after the horn. The W is at its best when it mixes new energy with old values, intensity with integrity, heat with honor. Nights like this test that balance, and nights like this are when leaders like Sophie show why they're trusted voices. So here's where we land. Sophie Cunningham is out with an MCL tear. Bria Hartley is not the villain the screenshot tried to sell. The laughing moment reads as a grimace in motion. The injured player says there was no ill intent, and asks for the noise to cool down, starting with her own family and fans. The team is moving forward. The league has a chance to tighten reviews so we all trust the process more next time. And the rest of us? We can choose to be better than the algorithm wants us to be. Your turn. Did the internet rush to convict off one frame? Do you think prior incidents should outweigh the injured player's read? And if you're the commissioner for a day, do you flip the switch on automatic reviews after visible lower body injuries every time? Only on contact, or keep it discretionary? Drop your take, vote in the poll, and keep it respectful. If you're here for full-speed context, not freeze-frame verdicts like the video, subscribe and share it with someone who only saw the screenshot. Because at the end of the day, this is still the game we love. Respect the opponent, respect the whistle, respect the truth, even when it isn't as dramatic as the caption. Old school, the way it should be. Let's add one more layer that almost nobody talks about, how the cycle starts before the clip even hits your feed. In the truck, directors are choosing angles in real time, social teams are clipping the most striking frames, and commentators are reacting off partial information while they wait for a replay package. None of that is malicious. It's the speed of modern sports. But that speed is exactly why a half-second expression can become the story, while the actual play gets treated like background noise. If we want better nights than this, everyone in the chain can make one small adjustment: context before caption. If a player goes down and a freeze frame looks incriminating, wait for the full speed angle and one alternate camera before publishing the "Did she just smile?" post. 30 extra seconds can save 30,000 angry comments and a week of misdirected heat. Another piece people overlook is the role of the officiating crew chief in shaping trust. Even when the rules don't mandate a review, a brief on-mic explanation can diffuse a lot. We saw lower body contact leading to injury. We did not deem it excessive in real time. We'll confer at the next dead ball and confirm whether additional angles warrant a look. That's not weakness. That's leadership. It shows players and coaches the officials are aware, engaged, and open to adjusting if the replay reveals something different. In a league that wants to grow audience and credibility, that kind of transparent communication is worth its weight in gold. Sports medicine also deserves a spotlight here. When a knee goes, the first responders are the athletic trainers and team doctors sprinting into the chaos. Their job is to stabilize, assess, and protect the player from secondary harm, while the rest of the arena is stuck in an emotional loop. If you care about player safety, one of the best things you can advocate for is giving these professionals the space and the time to do their work without a crowd verdict piling onto a second screen. That means fewer replays of the bend from shock angles and more updates once there's verified information. It means asking the broadcast to show the huddle that forms around the injured player. Teammates creating a human shield over the 10th replay of the same grimace. There's also a cultural reset fans can lead, and it's not complicated. 5 simple habits. Watch the play at speed, check a second angle, listen for the injured player's voice, separate outcome from intent, and hold the league to consistent standards instead of hunting a villain. You don't have to like the opponent to be fair to them. In fact, that's the most old-school thing there is. Rivalries are sweeter when they're clean, wins are bigger when they're honest, and players remember who kept their humanity when the internet tried to take it away. For Bria, the path back from a viral accusation is going to be steady and unglamorous. It's not a quote, it's not a tweet, it's months of ordinary possessions that don't trend. A box out you don't see, a help rotation that prevents a drive, a hand offered to an opponent on the way up. That's how reputations are rebuilt. Quietly, relentlessly, with tape that leaves fewer doubts than a still image ever could. For Sophie, the path is just as steady and just as unglamorous. Rehab milestones that would bore the timeline but thrill any athlete. First pain-free extension, first jog, first cut, first practice contact. Both paths are about discipline, not drama. If you're a young hooper watching this, steal Sophie's blueprint. You can be tough and still be fair. You can hate the injury and refuse the grudge. You can ask for better systems without throwing people under the bus. That's leadership that travels into locker rooms, workplaces, families, anywhere people move fast and make judgments faster. And to the storytellers, channels like this one, highlight accounts, podcasts, this is our challenge too. The easy route is outrage. The harder route is accuracy with velocity. We don't need to be slow to be fair. We just need to be deliberate for one more beat. Confirm the context, center the primary voice, and then tell the story with the same energy you would have used for the hot take. Audiences notice, athletes notice, the league notices. Over time, that's how you become the place people trust when everything is loud. So yes, the screenshot was loud. The truth is louder if we let it be. Sophie Cunningham is out with an MCL tear and has been clear. No ill intent, no grudge. Bria Hartley issued her clarification. The laughing label doesn't survive full-speed tape. The fix is straightforward. Better review triggers, clearer officiating communication, and a community that values context as much as it values clips. We'll leave you with one more question to carry into the comments. Imagine the same frame, same night, but swap the jerseys, your favorite player, and your least favorite player. Would your judgment change? If the answer is maybe, that's the sign to slow down, check the second angle, and listen to the person who felt the contact. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Now, let's talk. Automatic reviews on visible lower body injuries every time only on contact, or keep it discretionary? What, if anything, should broadcasters change about replay choices after a scary injury? And where do you stand after hearing Sophie's own stance? Was the internet too fast, or were fans fairly reacting to a pattern? Drop your take, vote the poll, and keep it respectful. If you're here for full-speed context, not freeze-frame verdicts, hit like and subscribe. We'll keep telling the whole story, even when a single frame tries to steal the show.